Amid calls for criminal justice reform next legislative session, some Texas lawmakers are trying to add new crimes or increase punishments for existing crimes. Despite those efforts, reform advocates tell me the focus will still be on keeping people out of jail. More than 2,000 criminal offenses are already on the books in Texas, but the Texas District and County Attorneys Association points out that dozens of bills filed ahead of the legislative session would add new crimes or increase punishments, which prosecutors aren't asking for.
I hope policymakers will recognize that we need a system with a smaller footprint that focuses on the addressing violent crime, addressing conduct that really imperils public safety.
Most of those bills are about gun control and likely don't stand much of a chance to pass. Houston State Rep Gene Wu says about 25 new crimes are added each legislative session, but he believes lawmakers will be focused on opportunities for reform, like the decriminalization of marijuana.
If we are no longer in love with just locking everyone up for everything, let's make that true. Let's make that a reality.
Doug Smith, a senior policy analyst with the Texas Criminal Justice Coalition, spent 6 years in prison himself and says lawmakers often make the mistake of not focusing on prevention or a solution to crime. He says increasing calls for racial justice present an opportunity for change.
Increasing penalties doesn't actually prevent property loss or harm to communities. Increasing penalties just extends the amount of time someone might be punished for that criminal activity.
More than 1,100 bills have been filed ahead of the next legislative session. That includes the George Floyd Act, which would ban chokeholds and require officers to step in if they see excessive force being used. Governor Greg Abbott is also pushing for new crime legislation. In September, he introduced proposals targeting violent protesters. He said destroying property, causing injury, or blocking hospital entrances during protests would become felonies. People who help organize or pay for protests that turn violent could also face jail time. The fight to make marijuana legal in Texas could get new support in the coming session, why Tough Times could pump up proposals to legalize pot. Big cities pay for lobbyists to get their message to lawmakers. Taxpayers end up covering the cost, why cities say that's a good deal for citizens as some push to take those lobbyists away.